What is up, guys? Taiki here. Today, I'm very honored to have Chris McCann on the channel to discuss all things Solana. Solana was one of the things that that it got away from me. I knew about it. I thought it would take longer to play out, but obviously, I'm coping. But just because I missed out doesn't mean that I'm too late on it, right? So I figured I'd rather, I wanted to have a Solana expert on the channel to discuss all things Solana, the yield opportunities available, and like what the ecosystem looks like. So thanks for coming on the channel, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so for those that don't know who you are, can you just give us like a brief introduction of who you are, when did you get into Solana, and like what you do today?
Sure. Hey, everybody, I'm Chris McCann. I'm one of the general partners of Race Capital. We're a venture fund based here in the Valley. We focus mostly all things in the infrastructure layer, seed up to Series A. Not like a pure crypto fund, but we've done a lot of investments in this space. Before this, I used to work at Greylock Partners. I was there for 5 years. And then sort of post Greylock race, I made a handful of sort of early bets in the crypto space. So in 2017, I was one of the earliest users and investors for this very tiny exchange called Binance when it first started. In 2018, I was one of the very first investors for Solana back in their seed round when Anatoly and Raj were starting the project. And then for the fund race, we were also one of the initial seed investors for FTX when Sam was first starting the exchange as well.
So yeah, I mean, those are great bets. So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
And so I guess what did you see in Solana that like allowed you to invest in it early, and like how did you like build your conviction when you first saw it and like to where we are today?
Yeah, I guess for context, it was a very different time back then. This is basically the end of 2017, right in the beginning of 2018. This is like right when CryptoKitties was taking off and the Ethereum gas fees were starting to kind of bump up in price, and people started to really feel the scalability issues of the existing blockchains that were out there. I'd known Anatoly through a lot of other previous work that I'd done before. Anatoly is just a ridiculously impressive individual. I basically told him, whatever you do, I don't really care what it is. I'd be willing to back and support you in whatever capacity it was. And then he's like, hey, I've actually been thinking about this. And he sent me an email of a little snippet of text, which would eventually become the Solana white paper. But back at the time, there was no testnet, there was nothing built, there was no developer ecosystem. It was literally mostly an idea from Anatoly himself. Before Solana, he was an infrastructure engineer at Dropbox. Before that, he was a core developer at Qualcomm, working on very low-level CDMA handset chipsets. Basically, a lot of the things that route our phone calls and all that stuff. And so he had this very different conception on how you would build a blockchain that could scale for internet scale. And his idea was really using time to basically pin down and order transactions, which would eventually become kind of proof of history, which we know today. But back at the time, conceptually, it was an idea from a super impressive individual for a very clear, obvious need, which would only become more pressing kind of in the future. But it was super early, and it was, again, it was mostly about Anatoly himself.
Yeah, so I guess with the bet on Sam at FTX and I guess Anatoly at Solana, I guess as an investor, as an early seed investor, you like kind of, you want to bet on people, right? It can't just be an idea. You need a team that can execute.
Yeah, again, I guess it depends on like what stage you're investing in. But yeah, when you're in the super earliest, pre-seed angel type round, yeah, you are effectively betting on the team and the greater market that they are eventually building into. And of course, there's lots of pivots, changes, moves, ups, downs. Now I think it's easy to see Solana's going up and to the right, and there's all this momentum and everything, and it's easy to see them as a success today. But that wasn't always the case. And even in the beginning, they had quite a tough time getting off the ground. So yeah, you really try to find people and founders and entrepreneurs who you really gel with and kind of fall in love with, and you kind of back them through all of those time periods, both the good and the bad.
Yeah, because I remember covering the Solana ecosystem. I made a video April 26th of this year, just going over like, hey, like what are the current projects available? And I was able to make that video because you Chris, like you had like a spreadsheet like back in April about like all the projects in the ecosystem. And when I made that video, my takeaway was that okay, it's probably gonna take a pretty long time for everything to be built out, just because it's not EVM, it's built on Rust, right? That's the programming language. But obviously, I was wrong, and now there's a thriving ecosystem. Like, are you surprised at like how quickly the ecosystem like flourished, or like did you kind of see this with all the hackathons that Solana had?
The Solana team, Anatoly and Raj, are very execution oriented, which in general, like we also try to find that as well. Sam and FTX, he's ridiculously execution oriented to
Oh
the
yeah.
extreme, which is why we fell in love with him. And then we're also the lead investors for a specific Solana project called Saber, which is building a lot of things in the stable swap kind of ecosystem. They're also ridiculously fast in execution as well. So we tend to fall in love with these teams and founders and entrepreneurs who not just dream these big ideas and talk about big concepts, but actually bring them to reality. I remember, again, Solana did not always have the easiest time getting going. One of the big existential questions I always push the team on is you can build the best, quickest, fastest blockchain in the universe, but if nobody uses it, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like, you actually need to find developers and people and an ecosystem to build things on top of this. And for the first about year or two of its life cycle, this was the biggest unanswered question. The first one was, would this even work? And the second one is, would anybody even care? And the first biggest break that the team had going for themselves is when FTX wanted to build Serum. They did a whole kind of analysis of all the things that were out there, including just building it themselves. And they decided to, on their own accord, pick Solana. And one of the biggest reasons why is, again, they were looking for things that were going to scale today, not in the future, not some theoretical concept that might or might not work or that had an unclear roadmap, but they wanted something that actually worked. And so there's this famous story, I guess, where Anatoly and Raj sent them. It was originally called Solana Break. It was this little test app where you can basically, every time you click the space bar, it would basically spin up a transaction, send it to the network, and then you can kind of visually see it confirm or whatever. And however many times you can click, that's how many times you could sort of see everything. So most people, normally click with their hands and push really fast or whatever. The FTX team, they actually built a bot that basically clicks the space bar as fast as humanly possible to see, to stress test. How much can this actually handle? And their engineers were pleasantly surprised when, hey, again, this wasn't some theoretical future reality. Like, this could actually handle some pretty large scale transaction volume, even in the beginning. But yeah, I think a lot of the skepticism came from all of the surrounding stuff was not really there yet. There wasn't really a wallet that worked really great. The CLI tools were like not the best. There weren't oracles for the stuff. There wasn't any applications built. There wasn't DeFi stuff. There wasn't anything. And so you kind of needed a kind of a ecosystem to kickstart itself for this to get going. But as you can see today, like once one of these starts to reach terminal velocity, then the whole thing starts to kind of compound in itself, and you see a much faster velocity after that.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I was in like back in April, I was like looking into Solana, and there was like a video with Sam. It was like a 5-minute video. He's like, yeah, like we invested because like Solana's like this is fast, and if you want to replace the New York Stock Exchange, like it has to scale now, right? And I guess now we're seeing the effects of that. Like, I mean, there are so many dApps. I think like Saber, I think hit like 30 billion TVL today or something, and then there's Sunny Aggregator. So speaking of like those dApps, can you like kindly go over like the major dApps that you like on Solana, and just like share like what the ecosystem looks like?
Yeah, maybe if you don't mind, I'll share my screen, and maybe I'll take a step back a little bit and kind of contextualize like the kind of architecture of how this works, and then I can go into kind of more specific apps, and I'm happy to run through like, I guess, a more live demo of products that are not my own, which they all
that'll
work.
be great. Yeah, because
okay, cool. Let me share. So I wrote this post. I could scroll up. I wrote this post a little while ago called DeFi infrastructure. I spent a lot, in addition to the crypto space, I also spent a lot of time in the more traditional financial infrastructure world, and kind of how those systems are architected with a lot of the core banking systems and a lot of the kind of underlying financial infrastructure that a lot of fintech apps are built upon. And so I wrote this super long post, which I'm not going to go into, but I wrote this whole long thing about translating it also from the traditional side to the DeFi side, and kind of what's the major differences. But I think this this graphic does a really good job of, which I created, does a really good job of kind of at a high level, just underpinning what these things look like. So at the bottommost layer, Solana is the thing that is routing and confirming and pushing through all of the transactions itself. This is where the core ledger itself sits. On top of this, not all, but almost all DeFi applications on top of Solana mostly use the Serum central limit order book, or sort of CLOB at short. They do this because it's easier to push and pull orders through it. And then any other application that starts, they also don't need to start from ground zero. Basically, they can start with already a pre-existing set of liquidity that they can pull from. Again, this is probably like the most unique part of the Solana ecosystem. It actually doesn't really have a lot of comparables to the Ethereum space. It is kind of its own thing, but yeah, realize this is a layer that many DeFi applications on top built on top of. In addition to the apps themselves, you have kind of a lot of the ancillary services you need to use these things. So you have your wallets, your oracles, your analytics, your front-end applications to see what's going on at kind of a high-level view. And then in terms of the actual DeFi applications themselves, you have all the kind of basic ones from lending to options, the vaults, the automated market makers, and kind of all the way down the scale. Again, I think I wrote this a while back, before this ecosystem really exploded, that this wasn't intended to be the full version of all the things that are out there. But just to give you a sense of what it looks like today, this is at least one of the more latest graphics that I can find. There's all these people and firms or whatever that are continuously pulling all the projects itself. As you can see, it's a much bigger ecosystem with a whole bunch of players now. And there's a lot more coming in kind of on the private side as well. But this whole space is being developed as we speak. And one of the best ways to get, I guess, a little bit more of a quantitative sense on kind of what are the bigger things today. I always found this website, DeFi Llama, and then you can scroll specifically for the Solana chain specifically. This just tracks all of the total value locked in all of the DeFi applications within the Solana ecosystem. And then it ranks them by the total TVL and sort of rate changes and all that. So you can see basically these are the things that are the most heavily used in terms of total value locked, which isn't the only metric. It's one, but not the only one. But this is kind of a ranking of that. So there's things like you mentioned of Saber and Sunny and Raydium and Serum itself and Marinade and Kiro and Orca and a whole bunch of applications. And this, in addition to seeing kind of the more structural overview, this is a good kind of analytical view on seeing what's out there today.
Yeah, and if you can go to the chains tab on the left here,
yeah,
or if like on the DeFi Llama, the blue section,
oh yeah,
you can kind of see like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Solana. I think the growth of Solana has been like absolutely incredible. You see like in the past 7 days, 100 plus 137%.
Wow.
For something that's almost at 10 billion, like that's insane. I remember looking at this like a couple months ago, and it was like completely different, right? Like Avalanche was down there, like Terra was down there, like Solana was like down there, but like now, you're starting to see like the adoption that these blockchains and L1s are getting. I mean, looking at the price action, we see like Solana has gone up a lot. I mean, today Luna's up like 30% or something. So I think DeFi Llama is like a good place to, I guess, like have a good understanding of like where's the money flowing to, right? That's a pretty good indicator, because in the top 6, right, like everything is red in the past 7 days except Solana, right? So there's so many people bridging funds over to Solana, even though there aren't that many protocols yet.
Yeah, and maybe two other things for context, which will tie into like the actual kind of demo of some of these applications themselves. For Raise Capital, we're a venture fund. So we buy really early, we hold, we don't really do anything for a long time. And we have a super long time horizon for us. So we basically just hold and don't really do that much. However, on a more personal level, I really love trying and using these things. Because again, I feel like a lot of people love to talk about the stuff theoretically, or kind of all the big ideas or self-sovereignty and all that, which is totally cool. Like I love talking about these big ideas, but I also like seeing kind of more specifically how these things are constructed, how they work. I like actually using them myself. I like actually like spinning up some of the code bases and trying the CLI tools and things that even don't previously have documentation or whatever, because I feel like you get a much better sense as a person, as a user, as an investor, like how these things actually work in practice. So I also, I guess, wanted to show you kind of a live demo of some of the things that are out there, which should emphasize kind of what makes Solana and the application special. That being said, like from a fund perspective, we don't do a lot of this stuff. So it's mainly, I guess, my own more personal exploration and kind of using a lot of this stuff. That's where a lot of it kind of comes from.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the demo.
Yeah. I guess you want me to get into it?
Yeah, that'll be great.
Cool. So I guess at a basic level, keeping in mind kind of this graphic, if you will, the way to access all these things to begin with is you need a wallet. My recommendation for most of this is to use Phantom. You can use Soleil, or there's other wallets as well. Phantom, it's a really easy user experience. It's a really well done wallet. We're not an investor or whatever. I just I like the thing that they've built. It's a little I guess if you're familiar with MetaMask, it's something you add to Chrome, and it just kind of hangs here, if you will. It's very similar to MetaMask, and this is your gateway and kind of how you access the Solana ecosystem. For you, I created a new wallet. I put in 10 Sol in there. I'm actually going to use some real money to do all this stuff.
Oh.
So this is actually going to be real transactions, again, not in theory, some real stuff. And then the other fun thing I want to do for myself is I'm going to do all these transactions, move a bunch of things around, and go back. And then at the end of it, I'm going to convert everything back into Solana. And I'm going to see how much we actually spent in terms of transaction fees and costs and all that. So again, you can get a real representation of what this actually looks like.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, can't wait.
But yeah, I guess to begin, so right now in our Phantom wallet, we only have Solana. And to use most of these things, I will probably need a stable coin to do so. And so this is a Raydium. So Raydium, maybe I'll just go to the website. Raydium is kind of I guess think about it like the Uniswap for Solana. They have pools, they have trading, they have an AMM, they have a bunch of other stuff. For this practical purposes of a demo, I'm just going to show off the basic swap feature. So I'm logged into my wallet account. I'm going to pull up my Solana in my wallet. I'm going to pull up what I want. So I want USDC. And I'm going to do half of this. So about little almost 5 Sol is going to equal $853. And then I'm going to click swap, and then I'm going to approve.
Nice.
Transaction confirmed. This is a big reason why people really love Solana, and transactions confirm super quickly. So if I go into my wallet, it might take like a minute or so for the thing to show up, but yeah, the swap's already done, and in my wallet would already be the USDC. It's very fast in order to do it. Again, I'm not going to go into all of these things, but for Raydium, they also have, you can be a liquidity provider and pool, you can do staking, you can do a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'm just going to show off, at least for this one, just the pure swap side of it.
Yeah, it's crazy how 5 Sol is almost like $900, because I think like back in May, I funded my Soleil wallet with like 5 Sol, which was like, I don't even know, like less than $100. And now it's grown so much. It's wild. Yeah, so I think Raydium is like the best place to swap, right? For non-stable pairs, I guess.
Yeah, in addition to that, which I'll show you later, Step Finance also released, they have like a kind of automated market maker too. But yeah, I think either like Raydium or Step or Orca, there's kind of a handful of others. These are kind of like the main places people would do more of the pure non-stable swapping today.
Got it. Yeah. And
cool. So I guess now that I have some Sol and some USDC and a wallet address, now begs the question of like, what do you want to go and do with it? Another application which I will show off is Saber. Again, I guess with the caveat of we are investors in Saber. I love the product, I love using it, but we are a little bit biased in this regard. What Saber is really known for is swapping, pooling, and farming stable pairs. So things that should be one-to-one value to each other. So it could either be like stable coins outright, USDT and USDC, or could be other very similar like things, so like M-Sol, Marinade Sol, and regular Sol. Mm-hmm. These things should really be treated as one-to-one, pretty much the same. And so Saber is basically a whole AMM architected around this concept. So if you want to swap from any one pair to another like pair, this allows you to do so. But the thing that most people use this for, in addition to just the pure swapping side, is also the pooling side. So I'll show you kind of a real example of that one as well. We'll do a simple one. So I'll just be an LP liquidity provider for this pool, the USDT USDC pool. So I'm going to deposit USDC. Actually, I might need to connect my wallet first. Oh yeah, I like Phantom. It's very well designed.
Yeah. So this is like Curve, right?
Yeah, you can think about it as like Curve, I guess, but it's not. I guess the slight difference is it's not only purely just the stable side. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of other different assets like FTT. They have some Bitcoin in here. They have Serum, but it's all things that are similar like to each other. So it's not one big concatenated pool. It's like these smaller sub pools based on like these sub specific assets.
Yeah, it's more capital efficient. It's like swap stable pairs on Saber than it would be on something like Raydium. I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, maybe I should back up. Yeah, the reason why you would pull this stuff from the beginning, from the first place, is most people want to farm the rewards for it.
Yeah.
So if you are a liquidity provider in the system, you get to earn your yield. Hence, I probably don't need to explain that to your audience, but
yeah. But we're humble farmers out here. Yeah. So
yeah, but I'll show you the full process of doing it. And again, I'm just going to do a more simplistic one, just USDC, USDT, but you can kind of do all these other ones. So again, I'm going to deposit, and then I guess the nice thing with Saber is you can either do one leg, both legs, one side of it, two sides of it, 50%. There's no like restrictions. You don't need to have half or whatever. Gotcha. So I guess for this one, so I'm just going to deposit all of the USDC. So 853, this is all the kind of pricing, your things you're going to get back or whatever. I guess you can look at it more carefully later if you want to. Again, this is kind of a more test amount that I'm showing you guys. So I'm going to be a little bit less picky about all these specific things.
Of course.
So as you can see, I already got the LP tokens back. They're currently unstaked. And then to go into farm them, you go into farm, go to stake. I want to stake all of the LP tokens that I just did, so I could deposit it all. Approve. As you can see, Solana is ridiculously fast, and Saber too, which is awesome. And then, so now all of my liquidity that I just put in, so all the USDC is currently staked, and I am earning, not a lot, but I'm earning 0.155 Saber token per day. Again, if you were doing this for real, I would probably look at all of the farming rates that you're getting. USDC is probably like the worst one. You're only getting 5%, but there's a whole bunch of other, depending on which assets you have and kind of where you're bridging from and what your, I guess, risk tolerance is. There's a whole bunch of other options that you can do. But again, just for sake of a demo, if you will, I did the most simplistic one.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's cool that you don't have to split it up like 50-50 like you would on, I guess, on other automated market makers. That from like a user experience perspective, that's just like a lot easier, right? Just like skipping like the additional step, like swapping, because like when if you had like 850 USDC and you wanted like you had to do half, then you have to incur like the swap fees, like some slippage, which eats away at your gains. But this is from a user experience perspective, it's like really nice.
Yeah, and then one of the other things which I won't show in totality, but I'll just tell you about, I guess, is so now I have the staked LP token for this pair in my wallet. And so one question you could have is, well, what can you do with that, if anything? Again, this is kind of the more newer, unexplored area of the Solana space. There is actually a handful of these newer projects that are going to be taking Saber LP tokens and allowing you to do stuff with them, trade, farm, stake, do other things with them. One small example that's out there today, which again, I won't walk through the whole thing, but just for sake of example, there's a thing called Sunny, which allows you to—
Sunny's insane.
It allows you to deposit your Saber token and earn the Sunny reward. So it's kind of, it's a farm on top of a farm, if you will, that allows you to kind of farm the dual rewards. So you get all of your Saber rewards, plus you get like your Sunny rewards. And Sunny has like a kind of broader ambition where they want to be this more composable sort of yield aggregator layer, almost think like YEarn. And they have a bunch of plans to do kind of more complex strategies and stuff like that in the future. But right now it's kind of simplistic where they're bootstrapping their initial network based off of the Saber LP tokens itself.
Yeah.
Again, I won't walk through like the full example, but just something I guess to know about.
Yeah, I think my audience generally understands how these things work. Can you just like briefly scroll down, Sunny, just so like
Yeah.
so people can see the rates? I mean, like, I mean, these rates are insane. Like, I don't know how long they're gonna last, but I mean, they're gonna, like, on top of the Saber rewards, they're gonna give you Sunny tokens, right? So it's kind of like the idea of money Legos, where you first have Saber, and then, you know, Sunny essentially kind of builds on top of Saber, and it kind of like builds out liquidity for the entire Solana ecosystem, which will create like a roadway for like more apps to build, right? Because, you know, if USDT and USDC has $1 billion in TVL, then, you know, those stable swaps are going to be so efficient that, you know, maybe other applications can build on top of it. So you can kind of see like how the Solana ecosystem is like starting to be built out. And, you know, like these things have to be built in order for, you know, ecosystems to thrive, right? And that's the reason why on other ecosystems like EVM based ecosystems, Curve and Aave are so important, because I feel like every ecosystem needs Curve in order for, you know, like, I guess liquidity and for swaps to be like possible.
Yeah, I didn't show that portion off, but yeah, if you go back to on the Saber side, because you have all these people who want their rewards, who are all being LPs and staking these in long-term contracts and all that, the price to swap between these things is ridiculously efficient.
Yeah.
Like you can literally do millions of dollars in a single transaction and get super low slippage. And then the really nice thing, I guess, on the farmer side, if you will, is the illiquidity risk is very low on these things, if any, because again, it's the similar pair on both sides. So I don't, you know, at the end of the day, I don't really care if I get back USDT or USDC or some combination of it. You eventually get the choice. And then depending on the balance of the pool, you get a little bit of bonus, if you will, depending on if you take the more side or less side. So there's a little bit more mechanics of it, which I probably won't go into like the super nitty gritty of it. But the illiquidity risk on all these things is very, very, very low, because again, it's all very similar like assets.
Yeah, I feel like people
yeah.
don't really appreciate these things as much as they should, because I guess like stable swaps aren't that exciting, but like it's necessary for an ecosystem to thrive in. So
Yeah,
speaking of primitives, sorry to interrupt, but like speaking of primitives that like is like super important. Like I know you had Solend, the tab open.
Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, before I do that,
Of course.
everybody always loves to show off like doing these things. I'll actually show the reverse too.
Okay,
So
okay.
I want to unstake all of it. So I want to withdraw everything.
Yeah, and the fees are so low that it doesn't take much to.
So yeah, I unstaked all this, so then I can go back into my pool. I could go back into the pool that I want. I could withdraw it all. And again, see here I could decide, do I want to withdraw USDT or USDC, and how much do I want to withdraw of it? And then you can look at the pool stats. So this one's fairly balanced. So if I withdraw, since USDC is a little bit more, you get like a little bit more of a bonus. But I guess it depends if like how balanced or unbalanced the pool is. And you usually want to go to the side with more, because you get kind of a little bit of a reward for helping to balance the pool itself. But again, I put in USDC, so I'm just going to take USDC out. I'm going to withdraw it. And so yeah, after this confirms, I am all the way out of the pool itself. So this is all the way from staking, farming, earning reward, then back out. And you can see how quick this is. Like I've had to do this process on other similar like pools and other ecosystems. And just this simple process is usually much more painful. With Solana, like the biggest user benefit is, again, it's super fast and easy to do so. And if you make a mistake, or if you want to try it with small dollars to begin with, you want to do multiple pools, you want to switch things around, it's a lot easier to do so because the cost and the speed is a lot faster. So it kind of allows you as the user to feel more safe with experimentation.
Yeah, I often say like when you're using something with like low transaction fees, like cost of error is like minimal, right? Because if you make a mistake on the Ethereum blockchain, you're gonna have to spend like $100 to like reverse it. But like on Polygon or on Solana, it's like, oh, even if you mess up like a simple step when you're trying to farm, you can just like go back and like, you know, not really have to worry about the fees. which is really nice.
Yeah. So I'll show off a few. So yeah, so this is the core, I guess, stable swaps, and then using the LP tokens for other things. And then in addition to pure stable swaps, as you're mentioning, Solend. So I guess think of Solend like a Compound or Aave, but native to Solana. So it's mostly borrowing and lending markets, native to Solana itself. So very similar, the dashboard, connect wallet. I might need to move this window really quick. Cool. And then you can see all of the, which is kind of crazy. Like they just launched not too long ago. They already have 72 million in supply in total of that 30 million borrowed, which is kind of nuts. And then it shows you all the supply APY and borrow APY on these things, and then all the assets that they support today. So if I wanted to, I can deposit my USDC and get this, or I could also be on the other side. So I can deposit my Sol to borrow some similar assets to then now take that and put that back into Saber, to put that back into Sunny. Again, like this composable Lego concept. I probably won't walk through the whole thing, just because I guess two reasons. One, I'm probably not going to like lend to do anything for higher excess return on a sub-minute time scale. Probably won't matter as much. And two, I guess more FYI, I tend to be less of a net borrower for a lot of these things. Personally, I tend to be more of like a net supplier for a lot of this stuff. So at least on a personal level, I don't tend to do as much leverage on these things. But again, it's out there and people do try it.
Yeah, I'm a huge money markets guy. So like when I saw Solend, I was super excited. I think they have like deposit limits just to like,
yeah,
they have like training wheels on just like as they get started, which is like totally fine. But like when I bridge funds over, I'm gonna like definitely gonna be looking at Solend, right? Because maybe use my ETH or Bitcoin as collateral, borrow dollars against it, put it into Saber, then put it into Sunny or something like that, right? I really like doing those things like that because, for example, on USDC, your borrow APY is like roughly 7%. But if I can earn 100% on Sunny, then like I'm fine paying that as long as I don't get liquidated. So yeah, Solend, definitely keep an eye out for this one. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of these other borrowing lending markets kind of around Solana as well. I think like Jet just released recently. There's another project coming out soon. So yeah, it's another one of these Lego pieces that will be critical to the Solana ecosystem. And I imagine borrowing lending will be embedded or used into many other applications as well. Which I guess kind of leads into, maybe I'll skip the next one and I'll go into one of those. For example, an application that embeds lending into itself is one called Mango. There's not I guess you could sort of think of them like DYDX, although it's a little bit different. So because you have borrowing lending markets into the trading application itself, you can basically do automated margin trading all directly within an application. So if I wanted to buy BTC on 2x leverage, all I have to do is connect my wallet, deposit some funds, and it will automatically basically borrow from the internal markets of all the suppliers itself to allow me to execute that trade while holding my balance in the balance side and making sure I don't hit the liquidation limit. So this is all kind of composed all internally itself. And you can see some of it's a little hard to see, I guess, just on the trading interface, but I guess you could see on the stats interface. When it first started, it kind of had a little bit slow going, but they've had a ton of growth themselves. So here's all the cumulative deposit volume on like a daily basis. And here's all the borrowing volume on a daily basis. And again, it is a borrowing lending market. So, you could, in theory, take this and do other stuff with it. But again, most people all use it within the kind of Mango application. So it's mostly if you want to use leverage on any of your existing positions.
Yeah, and these rates are pretty good, at least for USDC. I mean, I guess when people take leverage, they borrow dollars to buy more Bitcoin or Ether, whatever asset. Oh, 60% for Tether. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, as you can imagine, yeah, the dollar ones are more in demand than the other one. And then in the Solana ecosystem, it tends to be a little bit more USDC native. Like USDT did not have as big of a stronghold, and so it's a little less there's less of a thinner market. But again, some people really love USDT. So
yeah, do you think that's because like Solana has more attention in like people in the US, so they're more comfortable using USDC, or is it just
I think it's more of like a technical one. I think when because in Solana, all these tokens, they're under, it's called an SPL token, SPL format. I guess kind of think about it like ERC20, but this is the kind of equivalent in the Solana ecosystem. In the beginning, the USDC accepted the SPL token format, and so it was really easy to compose with a lot of this stuff. USDT did a slightly different version. It wasn't exactly the same standard as everybody else. And so it was a little bit more cumbersome to use. You had to like authenticate this new wallet within your wallet, and it was a little hard to use. And so they eventually switched. So they eventually just did conform to the standard SPL format, which everybody else was doing. But yeah, in the beginning, kind of USDC had a little bit more of a stronger foothold just because it was kind of natively SPL wrapped. You didn't have to worry about this wrapping, unwrapping process.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I heard lots of good things about Mango, like leverage trading, right? I guess there's always, man. And from the deposit interest rates, it seems like people are taking leverage right now.
Yeah. So I won't do like the full example on this.
Yeah, of course.
This is again more like if you want to any of the pairs that they're trading right now. It's only Mango itself, BTC, ETH, Solana, USDT, or Serum. I don't know why you would do USDT, but whatever. But if you wanted to do leveraged bets on any one of these things, I think it goes up to, I think 5x is the max. But like 3x is kind of like the general range. So if you want to do leverage positions on any of these, Mango is kind of the place that you would go to do it. Cool.
Gotcha,
So that's Mango. And then maybe I'll move slightly away from the pure trading side and go to something that other people kind of might have questions on it, is because Solana is a proof of stake network. You can actually stake your Solana funds in order to get kind of a rate of return on it. And then the staking rate, the best place to look at that is this site called Solana Beach. This is like more around, I guess, like the validators, kind of epoch time, the transactions per second, and all that sort of stuff. But if you go to the validator side, you can see the effective staking APY you can get today on staking your SOL is about 7.62%. And this is dependent on how many other people are staking at any given time and what's like the unstake rate and all that. So there's like this number like fluctuates a little bit, but this is kind of if you're holding SOL and you're not doing other stuff with it, this is kind of like the base rate that you can get from it. So this kind of also begs the question of, well, if I can stake my SOL and get a return, is it possible for me to have kind of a synthetic instrument to stake my SOL, but then to do something with that staked SOL? So this is where concepts like liquid staking, and I think I didn't have Lido because I think Lido just like literally launched yesterday for Solana. Marinade, I think, has been out for about a month or so. So Marinade lets you, let me see if I could actually try I'll try to do this one for real. Hopefully the unstaking process isn't as pain in the ass for this one, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe we just like stake one SOL or something, so you have enough funds liquid.
So this is so if I wanted to stake one SOL, there's a little bit of a loss, I guess transaction fee or
also I think it is MSOL appreciates against SOL over time.
Yeah, I think that's it too. Yeah, MSOL appreciates against it because all the return gets accumulated kind of for it as well. So anyway, I can take my SOL and I can stake and I get back this amount of MSOL. So I staked, proving.
Yeah, so MSOL is essentially Solana that's staked, that's earning 7.6% that you can use in other applications. Because I think on Saber, you can do SOL, MSOL, and you can earn, or maybe on other farms too, you can earn like decent APYs on that. So you can just gain exposure to Solana and put it into Saber to earn whatever rates that they're offering, right? It's similar to like AUST on Terra. Oh no, something wrong. But it's like and staked ETH on Lido on the Ethereum blockchain, where it's a staked asset that's earning the staking rewards.
I did go through. It must be their interface.
UI
by the way, all these are on live demos of products that are not mine. so I'm doing this is like for real testing, and this is actually real money. So, but yeah, if you ever see errors like that, you could always, I guess, similar to Etherscan, there's a whole bunch of services. I normally just use the Solana Explorer. So I put in the transaction hash It showed me it did go through, so must just been a interface error on their side. But anyway, yeah, I guess I'm not sure if this will show up.
Oh yeah, because you have
Well,
4 Sol now. You had 5 before, so I think you
yeah.
have. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they don't have it plugged into Phantom side. So yeah, this unknown token 0.99, this is the M Sol that's in there now. And so now that I have M Sol, I can go and I can do things with the M Sol. So it is effectively staking and getting the staking return, but I can also do things with it now. So I can put this back into Saber. I can LP for M Sol kind of pair itself. I could use that LP token for other things. I could borrow against it. I could do a bunch of stuff with it. So the stake is liquid because it allows me to do things with it, even though it is currently staked itself.
Yeah.
And then
I love these assets. It's like interest. It's like yield generating asset that you can use elsewhere. I love those kinds of assets. It's like so fun. It's just like this thing is gaining in value over time, and I could still use it as collateral, or I can use it as an LP position. It's really nice.
Yeah, and then normally to unstake, if you stake or unstake directly against the Solana program itself, it usually takes a few days for the unstaking process to clear. But the nice thing about these liquid staking things is it allows you to have the option to unstake now, which I think you take like a little bit of penalty, which is actually not that much when I'm looking back at the Sol I'm getting. It's honestly 0.003 Sol, which I don't know what that is in dollar value, but it's quite low. Or if it was a larger amount, I didn't want to do that. I can do like a delayed unstake. So I can get back my full, well, I actually get like a little bit more, which is kind of cool. I get back my Sol plus all the accrued interest on it, but I think you have to wait like, I don't know how long you have to wait, but you have to wait like an extended period of time. But I guess for sake of demo stake, I'll just do the unstake now. So yeah, this is how easy it is to do it. So if you wanted to get your liquid stake and do stuff with it, you can. And then if you want your Sol back, like you can kind of do it as easy as this too.
Yeah, awesome.
And then it might have that same interface error, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you doing the live demos.
I guess in general, it's always pretty scary to demo anything, especially things that you have like zero control over. Again, if you ever see this, like, yeah, this is basically the transaction hash. So I can put this back into, this is just the Solana Explorer. So on top, this is the, you could search for transactions or whatever. So just paste this in. It did look like it finalized in Max, so it must be something on there and that doesn't show it. And again, if you go into your thing, yeah, I have 0 M Sol now, and I have 5 point. I actually gained 0.01.
Nice. Yeah, arbitraging. We're arbitragers now.
Yes. So that's Marinade, and then let me do 2 other main examples, and then I guess I'll leave time for questions or whatever. One of them, which I think you asked me to cover, is Parrot.
Yeah.
Parrot is a little bit more complex of a topic to understand because there's a lot of moving pieces, if you will. But I guess the closest analogy to Parrot is why am I forgetting the Solana?
The Maker? Is it MakerDAO?
MakerDAO.
Yeah.
It's similar. It's a vault type concept. So the internal currency that Parrot spits out is this thing called Pi, PAI, which is stable to the dollar. So it's 1-to-1 to the dollar itself.
It's like
and then it's a similar vault type concept. So I any of the pairs itself. So I could put in USDC, I can put in USDT, I can put in Sol, or probably more interestingly, I can put in Saber LP tokens. I can put in Ren BTC. They actually allow for a bunch of different kind of more exotic assets that allow me to input this and pull out the pie, if you will. So let me show you. I think it's a little bit easier to see it from like a real transaction, if you will. So I will do, I guess for simplicity's sake, I will do Sol. So I'm going to deposit 100% of my Sol, so 5.01, which allows me to mint. Hopefully the debt ceiling isn't reached, but we'll see. This allows me to, yeah, actually the, yeah, I guess, yeah.
I think they capped the amount of Pi that you can mint because too many people were minting Pi. But
Yeah.
the concept is like it's like you deposit collateral and you can mint a certain amount of like Pi stable coins.
Yeah. So Pi is really in demand, and they also have their training wheels on, very similar to Solend. So they cap the debt ceiling at like a certain rate because they want to keep the one-to-one pair for Pi itself. They don't want it to get too high or too low. And so that right now the team's being very careful about how much they're allowing it. They have a global debt ceiling, which I don't know if I'm reaching that, or they have a pool specific debt limit. Which I can show you that in a second, by the way. But I guess just for example's sake, so if I could do this, I would deposit my 5 Sol, and I can mint back 574 Pi. And then now with the Pi, I can go back to Saber, and then I can convert the Pi into USDC. I can convert it into USDT. I can pull the Pi USDC pool directly. I can do stuff with my Pi that I've now minted itself. So again, very similar to the MakerDAO DAI concept. It's very, very similar. Although I think the most interesting one with this is they're actually allowing you to do LP tokens, which again, I've experimented with some of this. So because I'm a big LP on the Saber side, I can take those assets that are already on there. I can stick it back into here, which allows me to take out more Pi and allows me to go back into Saber and do more stuff with it. So it's almost like it's kind of like an implicit margin, if you will. But again, because all these things are stable paired against each other, the liquidation risk is very low. And in fact, like right now, while the training wheels are on, all of these pools will never liquidate. So again, there's a max on how much you can borrow, like all that's kind of restricted, but there's no risk on it because there's no liquidation risk, if you will, because again, all these things are all stabled against each other. So they're all kind of kept in check.
Yeah, and I love how all of these applications, like the UI is like so nice. It's like, I mean, I guess Parrot's kind of complicated to understand, but with like even the other protocols, it's super slick UI, relatively easy to understand. I think Parrot's like the most complicated, like out of all the apps right
Yeah.
now. I read through like some of their docs and I was like kind of confused. But generally it's think of it as like a MakerDAO model.
Yeah, Parrot's a little bit more complex. And then by the way, if you run into like this debt limit thing, I've had to learn from myself. I'm not an expert in this, by the way, but you can look at the stats, which they have like a whole bunch of different stats, if you will. This shows you the overall debt ceiling. Again, I'm going to move my Zoom window so I can see a little bit better. So this shows you the overall. So the overall debt ceiling available, debt ceiling originators. I think the overall was. So no, it should be. Yeah, this is a little bit more complex to read.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff all in one dashboard.
Oh, Pi debt yeah, I've asked the team to make. Oh, I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. So debt ceiling available. This is what you have to look at, and this little white bar at the bottom, debt originator. So this is the total global debt that's available, and right now it's only 0.009 cents. Basically, you can't borrow anything, which is why it wasn't allowing me. So even if the pools have capacity here, even if there is like amount for you to borrow, because like the overall debt ceiling has been reached, it doesn't matter how much you want to originate, you can't. Again, a big part of this is because a lot of the super strict training wheels are put on Parrot right now, and they're being very careful about rolling this out. Because as you can see, a lot of this stuff is like super ridiculously high demanded. Like whenever they increase the debt limit or they increase the specific pool, this stuff is usually sucked up like super fast. Like people really want this stuff. And so the Parrot team has had to be like very careful about this.
Yeah, which is super bullish for the ecosystem, right? There's like so much money in the ecosystem and people want to use all these apps. I think Parrot had like 200 million TVL, and I'm sure that'll grow over time as they like,
Yeah,
work on the project more.
And then maybe two other things, one simpler and then one, I guess, more on like the fun side. So the simpler one, maybe I'll do a hard refresh on this one. There's these front ends, if you will, called like Step Finance and Solar and a bunch of others, which allow you, I'll disconnect my wallet, which allow you to basically view all your holdings and like a kind of more easier, kind of user-friendly mechanism. Kind of think like, I guess, Zapperfy and the Ethereum space. It's kind of a similar concept before the Ethereum ecosystem, or sorry, for the Solana ecosystem. I'm not sure why this one's slow for whatever reason, but again, not mine, not my demo. But I'll see if this I'll see if this loads in a minute. But yeah, normally it kind of gives you just like an overview of all your holdings. So again, it shows that I have 5 SOL, 848 USDC. Again, I haven't done anything crazy in here, so it won't show all the stuff below. But if you have a bunch of things in Saber and you have a bunch of Pi and you have some debt originated and you're in Sunny and you're like, oh, you're doing all this stuff, this basically will show you kind of the overall holdings and where everything is and the value in it, and then give you kind of like your overall kind of portfolio and show you kind of a breakdown of all this. Again, when you're just holding basic stuff, it doesn't matter as much because you could always just look at Phantom or whatever. But when you have a whole bunch of things that you're doing, this is kind of like the way you view everything.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Awesome. And then last but not least, as a more fun one, there was literally a project that announced their testnet this morning. So this is super new, probably a little buggy, called Apricot. This one is also in the borrowing and lending space, but with a twist. So very similar to Mango, that has its own borrowing and lending debt markets in order to do margin trading. Apricot has its own borrowing and lending markets. This is all testnet; it's not real dollars. So
okay.
Yeah, you could see test Apricot. So this is all just faucet related stuff, which I could show you. You have to claim some. There you go. You have to claim some airdrop tokens too. Yeah, so all this isn't real money. So I guess just keep that in mind. So yeah, this is borrowing and lending markets all internally, but in order to do leveraged farming. Gotcha. And they're initially starting with stable farming. So I can input in SOL, or I can input in USDC, or I input in I could supply it with any of the assets that they're going to be supporting, which also allows you to do LP tokens itself, by the way. And then you can, on top of this, you can internally borrow from the market itself to farm at I think up to about 3x rate. And again, this one's also going to have high training wheels against it. So the liquidation risk is going to be very kind of low. And then they also have this other thing called like assist, which is basically monitoring your positions. And if you hit a certain threshold, they're going to auto liquidate, not the whole thing, but enough to get you back to like the safe kind of portion to do it. But yeah, this is like a completely new project that hasn't announced yet. They literally just did like their testnet this morning. I think this is going to be super cool and will probably kick up the TVL even higher to what we see today across the whole Solana ecosystem.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing the alpha. When do you think the training wheels will like come off? Well, I'm sure it'll happen slowly over time, but like
yeah, I don't want to speak on behalf of the team yet. This one's in testnet, so they like literally haven't even released it live yet. I think when they release it live, there's going to be like a cap per user, then overall cap, if you will. Okay. And then depending on how liquidations go, which they're working with a couple of these kind of liquidation providers, if there's not a huge risk on it and there's no kind of major bugs or whatever figured out, then they'll kind of slowly start to kind of continually kind of increasing it.
Got it. So it's going to be like Solend, just like caps per user, and over time it'll slowly be lifted, which which as a user I'm okay with. Just like I'd rather that be the case than like for me to get exploited or something.
Yeah, although the cool one about this one is it's this borrowing and lending market, but not for this general case, but more for this specific case. The closest analogy kind of is this. There's another project called Alpha Homura. It's kind of similar in concept, similar in vein, but yeah, it's really around kind of maximizing the margin on these farms that you're doing and allowing you to kind of use all these input tokens for more other reasons. And it's going to have a kind of strong tie into the Saber ecosystem as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, is this all the apps that you wanted to cover? Because I have some questions.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just do some like rapid fire things. So I guess
let's do it.
Yeah, these are more DeFi related stuff. If you're already denominated in SPL or Solana based tokens, if you have other assets outside, there's all these bridges that have been built. The two biggest ones is this thing called All Bridge, which allows you to go from any other ecosystem into the Solana ecosystem, depending on the asset that you have. There's another one, which is a little bit harder to use, called Wormhole. Wormhole, really like Saber leveraged Wormhole, allowing people to bridge in their assets from other ecosystems to do so. So these are kind of the two main ones that you would look at. And then again, these are all DeFi related stuff in the Solana ecosystem. There's also a whole bunch of NFT related stuff also happening. I'm not going to touch on or go through all of it, but one really good thing to look at is this thing called Solanalysis, which kind of shows you all the major NFT projects, shows you all the stats around it, kind of where to get it, all the bigger kind of marketplaces, shows you some of the upcoming projects. Again, this isn't like pure farming or DeFi related, but if you happen to be kind of interested in this stuff, this is like a really good landing spot, similar to DeFi Llama, if you will. DeFi Llama is kind of more for like pure DeFi stuff, and Solanalysis is more for like the NFT related information.
Yeah, I mean those floors, they're very high.
Yeah.
Yeah, and NFTs are insane. I'm trying to get into them more, but I mean, I think NFTs are real, but I'm just trying to understand it better. It's kind of not my niche, but I think.
Yeah. Again, more just FYI, and yeah, maybe the big FYI is like this is a these are some cool things that I have used that I like, but this is a very small subsection of what's available in the Solana ecosystem. Again, going back to this chart, there's a ton of stuff. Like there's no way I can cover all these things going on. These are more just representative examples, not the only examples by any means. So, again, hopefully this is like enough as like a jump starting point to get you to explore some of these stuff. But really the best way to learn all this is just learn by doing yourself. And again, similar to what I did, like you don't have to start with, oh, actually I should do the exercise. You don't have to start with a lot. You can start with a little bit, and given the fees are so cheap and it's so easy to do so, like you don't have to worry as much about spending 100, 200, 300 bucks in like every single one of these transactions. It's actually quite cheap. And I guess to go back to my original thing, so in my wallet is I started with 10 Sol. I split it. I did a bunch of stuff.
You might get more at the end.
Yeah, now I have 5.01 and I have this USDC. So I'm going to move everything back to Sol to see how close I got, if at all, to the 10. So again, I'm back in Raydium. So I'm just going to do the reverse. So I'm going to switch all of my USDC into Sol. I'm going to update it. I'm going to swap, prove, went through. And then it might take a second to update on Phantom.
Yeah, I guess it's not 5. Oh, it says 9.813 on Raydium.
Oh, it tells you.
Yeah. It already swapped, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so yeah, total balance, 9.8. So yeah, I lost 0.2-ish in fees and transactions and going back and forth and in and out of random stuff and stuff I haven't been used before, which again, it's not zero, but in terms of other comparables, just the speed and the cheapness of doing this, it's really, at least from a user side, like it makes me feel more comfortable to experiment with these things. Like even right now today on this, like this video, if I had to pay, 200 bucks or, even 20 bucks on like every transaction, oh yeah, you can see the total here. Like 10 Sol would not last, or I guess 1,700 bucks would not last me very long if I was spending that much in fees on every single time. And by the way, like sometimes it takes 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 minutes and other chains in order to do it. But with Solana, as you can see for yourself, it usually clears pretty quickly. Usually it clears faster than the actual interface's update. Usually that's the thing you're actually waiting for, not the actual transaction to complete. But yeah, I started with 10 Sol. I ended up with 9.81325 Sol, which again, in my books is pretty good.
Yeah, and I think, and it's not, I guess it's like not 10 because maybe, I'm not tracking the price right now, but maybe the Solana price went up. So when you initially swapped, maybe, Solana got more expensive, so you got less. And I think you ate some slippage on Saber too with the fees and whatnot. So
yeah, there's definitely,
the fees themselves are super cheap.
Yeah, it's definitely not no fees. There definitely is still cost of transactions in order to do all this stuff. And again, the market's moving. This is actually this is a real live demo. This is not test accounts. This was the real market moving. Yeah. And I did not look at what happened in the Solana price in the past 53 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah, this is actually all of this is live on the mainnet today. It works. This was not test tokens. That was like real assets I was doing it all with.
Yeah, I know you have to head out for a meeting in like 5 minutes or so. So I just have like two main questions.
Yeah.
Or I guess like first thing I'll comment on is like you mentioned Wormhole and Allbridge. I think you can also bridge to Solana through FTX
Yep.
directly from the centralized exchange. So that might be like an easier way to go than using like something like Wormhole. But
Yeah.
there's like three main ways.
Yeah, the really nice thing, yeah, I guess I didn't count FTX because it's more on the centralized side. But yes, if you have an FTX international or US account, the really nice thing is it supports a SPL format natively. So if I want to withdraw USDC SPL wrapped already, I don't have to like unwrap it, wrap it, or go through Bridge or whatever. If there's USDC in account, I could always withdraw it out to a Solana wallet. And by the way, inside FTX, I don't know for all exchanges, but for FTX, if you export doing SPL, there's no fees associated with it. So sometimes with Ethereum, you pay like 25 or $50, or sometimes you get it a little bit cheaper. But with SPL, it's zero fee. FTX covers it all.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so I guess like the main question I have for you is like what are you most excited about for Solana, let's say for the rest of the year and beyond? Because there's so much that's going on. I mean, I did not anticipate Solana's going up this much, but obviously the reason is because there's so much adoption. There's a lot of eyeballs around the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So what do you most look forward to?
I'll give you. I just spent like 54 minutes being very specific and detailed and showing you all this stuff. Now I guess I'll be a little bit broader. I guess what I'm most excited about is we finally hit the Solana ecosystem has finally hit the escape velocity where all of these Lego pieces, if you will, exist. And all these things that are out there, borrowing and lending, stable swaps, pools, LP tokens, liquid staking, all of the basic layers are getting into place where now you can start to see the fun stuff that people are going to build on this. Again, I'm a little biased on the Saber side, but and I can't talk about some of these things, but the teams that are now building on top of Saber using the existing Saber tokens as their input side, similar to Sunny or Parrot or the other ones, and building new different things that don't really exist or have parallels in other ecosystems. This is like the fun stuff. We needed the basics in order to exist and get some traction. But now that the basic pieces will be there, now you can really start to explore the cheap transaction fees, very low cost, high throughput. Like now you can experiment like what the stuff actually really enables now that the base Lego pieces are there.
Yeah, super excited for the Solana ecosystem. Even though I am coping, I'm definitely gonna bridge funds over just to like try these different money markets out, Saber, Sunny, etc. Yeah, so thank you so much, Chris, for coming on the channel and doing the live demo. I'm sure it was really useful for my audience. So for anyone that wants to get to know you more, like where can they find you? Like on Twitter, do you have like website, stuff like that?
Yeah, I probably tweet too much. So if you just search for
me,
you can find me, or my Twitter handle is @McCannatron. So it's my last name, McCann, McCannatron. And then if you are a founder listening to this who happens to be building anything in the Solana space, I'm always willing to chat. My email is just chris@race.capital, which is a little bit easier than McCannatron. But yeah, either places. And I'm generally pretty easy to find online.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'll provide a link in the description below. So it's easy to find you. Yes, thank you so much, Chris. I learned a lot, and I look forward to using the Solana ecosystem more. So
awesome.
thank you guys for watching, and have a good one.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. See you, everybody.